Welcome. Thanks for watching. This is part 2 of a series that I'm calling The World's Best Tips for Kicking ADD's Ass. On this episode, I'm going to actually show you what it's like having ADD. I'm Jon Hotchkiss, and you're watching a special edition of my series, Be Less Stupid. Liberal politics, science, fact, and funny. Look, I've left a link to part 1 in this series down in the description. These are not videos that you have to watch in any particular order, so keep watching this one. Then when you're done, go and check out part number 1. Okay, so look, I thought it would be helpful for people to actually visualize what it's like to have ADD or ADHD. And not just for the people who have it, but also people with ADD can show this to their friends and their family as a way of explaining to them how they experience life. Let's get right to it. It's been my understanding that people with ADD love, quite frankly, even crave things like a street fair, a carnival, or a flea market because there's so much fun stuff to see, and it's incredibly difficult to get bored. So up first, what I want to do is show you what I think it's like at a fair for a person without ADD. This so-called, let's call them a regular person, walks in. They kind of walk leisurely through the event. If they see something that interests them, they stop, they take a look. Maybe they ask the person selling the stuff a few different questions, and then they continue kind of leisurely walking around. And for the rest of the day, it's mostly a lot more of the same. However, the experience for a person with ADD is totally different. When I get to a street fair, I can't wait to get started. I don't walk, I rush. There's something shiny on the left, I'm looking at it. There's something shiny on the right, I look at it. There's another thing shiny over here. There's something shiny over there, I'm looking at it, right? Now that thing over there's got my attention, now that thing over there's got my attention. And it's back and forth like this, up and down every single aisle. Now, look, you could see how that would be exhilarating, right? But it's also exhausting. And more on that part in just a bit. But first, if you don't have ADD, all that rushing around is not a fun way to spend the afternoon, as my wife is happy to attest. She doesn't have ADD, and she wants to stop at every goddamn knick-knack and curio booth. I mean, seriously, how many different fanny packs can one person examine? She keeps stopping, and all that stopping gets me frustrated, right? Because I just can't wait and stand there as she does her shopping. For years, I would go to these fairs, and I'd end up walking through the event all alone. My wife didn't want to go at my pace. Also, unlike me, she doesn't feel the need to put a Pretty Woman-style hat montage into every video like I do. Where was I? Oh yes, last year I figured out a solution to the problem of me walking around alone. I asked her to take the first lap around with me at my pace. And then afterwards, after we had done it together, she could go back and go through it at her pace. Now look, that is not the only way a person with ADD experiences the world. And this part is hard for people who don't have ADD to understand. As we race through the fair, suddenly there's something extraordinary that captures our attention, right? And bam! Suddenly we have laser focus. And we can spend 10 minutes staring at, say, a tiny dog in a tutu. Or a giant poodle playing frisbee. People without ADD, they ask me all the time, if you could focus on the tiny dog in the tutu, why can't you focus like that all the time? And look, I say that is a very fair question. The answer, unfortunately, is that's just not how it works. We have trouble focusing on most things, and yet there are a few things, like a dog in a tutu, where suddenly we have laser focus. Now look, here's another thing that happens. I assume that a person without ADD has the patience to walk up to the very first food truck that they see, read the menu, and consider what they're going to eat. Then they'll walk to the second truck, spend a little bit of time reading their menu, considering what they'd like to eat, and then move on to, say, a third or a fourth truck, right? They take their time, read the menu, and then consider all of their options. That is not how it works for a person with ADD, and it is not how it works for me, right? I walk up to the first truck. I try and find the menu. I'm distracted by all the pretty pictures. I see that there's a person next to me wearing a cool hat. I start thinking, I wonder, does this truck sell drinks, or am I gonna have to find another truck that also sells drinks? And then I'm frustrated that I haven't been able to spot the menu. Then I quickly walk over to the next truck, where the cycle repeats itself. It's only later, of course, that I realize that I have no idea what the first truck is selling. At the second truck, I quickly look for the menu, right? I get distracted again by the pretty pictures. I start asking myself, gee, do I order on the right and pick up on the left? Or do I order on the left and pick up on the right? I don't know. And then before I know it, I'm like, oh, I'm off to the third truck to see what they're selling. And then by that time, my wife says to me, well, what would you like to eat? And because I really don't have any idea, because I didn't read what any of the trucks were really selling, I just say, look, could you do me a favor? I'm gonna go sit down and read Twitter on my phone. Can you just buy something that you know that I like? And please bring it to me. Oh, also, I need my wife to wait online and bring it to me because, quite frankly, I would rather a circus freak pound nails into my eyes than wait even 5 seconds on a slow-moving line. Look, I've got one last observation to share. When I'm looking around at all the things to see, I gotta say it's fun, absolutely. But it's also exhausting. Not physically, but mentally. That's why I end up spending as much time on my phone sitting alone as I do walking around. Anytime I go to one of these events and I see a person sitting alone on their phone, the thing I say to myself is, I know that the people that that person came with, they probably think this guy is antisocial or standoffish, or he has terrible social skills. But the truth is, I know the truth, that that person has ADD and is just overwhelmed by the stimulation and needs to just chill the fuck out for a bit. Okay, look, that is it for this episode of Be Less Stupid. Remember, there is a link for part 1 of the series in the description down below. Also, I would encourage you to please subscribe to this channel and hit the little bell button. That way you'll be alerted when I post parts 3, 4, and 5 from this series. And let me finish by saying, could I ask you to do me a small favor? Please share this video on social media. If more people watch it, it makes it easier for me to keep doing them and for you to see them totally free. Anyway, I want to say thank you all very much for watching. For Be Less Stupid, I'm the host, Jon Hotchkiss.